Welcome to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. I'm Susan Levy. The teen court offers youth defendants an alternative to the traditional juvenile court and prosecution process, which in turn supports positive outcomes for the victim, community, and the defendant. In the studio to tell us more today is Reina Tavena. She is with the Guadalupe Teen Court, and she's the executive director of the Guadalupe Teen Court. Reina, welcome, and welcome to Native Talk Arizona.
Hi, Susan. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to be here.
I'm super excited you're here. I think Teen Court is amazing. But before we get started, tell us a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got interested in Guadalupe Teen Court and youth and all of that.
So like you said, my name is Reina. I'm from the Guadalupe community, and I'm also a member of the Pascua-Yaqui tribe. So that I'm from there, born and raised. Family roots go deep there, and Guadalupe Teen Court as well. You know, they were founded in Guadalupe, and that's kind of where I got my start, was when I was 13 and my mom and my grandma were like, hey, there's this program and we're going to take you to it. And I wasn't sure if I really wanted to join, to be honest, because, you know, I was a 13-year-old. I wasn't really thinking about the law and stuff like that. But, you know, that's how I kind of got very interested in it. I was 13. I started. And from that point to when I graduated high school and a little bit after, I've just been super involved in the program in terms of just being a volunteer, as well as being kind of like an ambassador, mentorship kind of thing, doing things with the newer generation of Teen Court members as well. So that's definitely
And you're now the executive director.
Exactly. It's a full circle moment for me. You know, I went to college and I got my bachelor's in psychology, and I also minored in criminal justice and political science. So I kind of dabbled in a little bit of everything. I did a little bit of program implementation with teenagers through Chicanos por la Causa for a little bit as well. So I was there. I have my program implementation background, and then as of this year, I am now the executive director, which is super exciting for me. It's definitely a new developmental period for me in terms of going from a participant and being a volunteer to being the director of the program. So I'm definitely in a new realm of things, but still feel like I'm the best person to kind of run this program because I've been through it.
That's right.
You know?
And you started when you were 13, and you know it speaks to the youth, for sure.
And I know kind of how that works, and I know times change. You know, after COVID, things kind of changed a little bit as well. Everyone's livelihood and the way that they live their lives just kind of shifted a little bit. So we're just trying to re-implement. Exactly.
A lot.
And then trying to bounce back from all of that, you know. And the Teen Court was still going on during COVID too. So they were doing their cases and stuff monthly via Zoom. So now we're just trying to transition back into in-person and diving into more of the empowerment aspects for the teenagers in the community, at least the Guadalupe Tempe area. You know, that's definitely the target that we're trying to reach.
Okay, so let's back up. Yeah. What's Teen Court?
So
for people that don't know what it is, what do you do? Who's it for? Tell us more about that.
So there's many different terms for this program: peer courts, youth courts, student courts, but, you know, teen court, those are all the same thing. And with those programs, students come to us who have committed crimes, and it's just a diversion program. And
so they come to you for diversion. Are these people that have they committed like a misdemeanor?
Yeah, they're
not
often
felonies, right?
Yeah,
like
no.
misdemeanor. So like
felony cases usually just go straight to the court system. So our teen court program is an alternative to that traditional court system. It's more of a diversion opportunity for often teenagers, but usually it's kids between the ages of 9 and 17 who've committed crimes like trespassing, shoplifting, assault, you know, those small misdemeanors, but still get you in trouble through the court. So they come to us, and teen courts also consist of teen volunteers as well. So not just the teens who do get in trouble, but our volunteers throughout the community. So our teen defendants do come in through the Maricopa County Juvenile Probation Department, and that's how we get them assigned. And then our probation officer, her name is Leticia. No, she's a great person. She works very closely on that end, and then I work closely on the teen volunteer end.
Okay, so if let's say one of my children committed a crime in Guadalupe and a misdemeanor, they would be arrested or have a charge filed, right?
So the way the process works is if a teenager is out and say, for example, they shoplift from a certain store, and while they're there at the store, they admit that they had committed that crime. So, and that's a big thing with the teen court is the use of restorative justice. So our teen courts are usually under a restorative justice model, which has to do with healing to the community, the victim, and the defendant. It has to do with taking accountability for the crime that you did and then making amends for that crime that you did. So that's the whole key concepts to the restorative justice model in which we work under. And the teen court program falls within those ranges of making amends for the crime that they did.
So if they don't, they're probably not a good candidate for teen court, right?
Yeah, and so whoever comes through our program as a defendant, they automatically say, oh, yeah, I did it. They take accountability for that action. So anyone else who's like, no, I didn't do it, they're the ones that are going to go through the actual court system. Okay. The traditional court system.
So my child, let's say, shoplifted, then they admitted it, they went through your program. And then you set up a date, right, in like the teen court.
Yeah, and each teen court has a different day. So for Guadalupe Teen Court, we're usually the 4th Tuesday of every month.
Okay.
And they work with the parole officer to figure out what place would be best. And then they come through our process where we have our teen volunteers. And they self-assign roles such as judges, attorneys, bailiffs, and jury members. And they go through the court process of swearing them in and then hearing what the defendant did, the aspects of the crime. And then in the process, our teen court volunteers get to adjudicate and deliberate consequences and ask questions to that person to figure out, what they did, what happened, what does your home life look like, just to better tailor consequences to them to make sure that the teen defendants that do come through our program are learning from this experience and can move forward and make better choices, and reduce the negative and delinquent behavior. So that's the main purpose of this program, is involving not only teens who volunteer and want to thrive in leadership, but helping those teens who make wrong decisions, because as teenagers we don't make the best decisions, and
That's true.
I can say from personal experience, I didn't always make the best decisions, but that's why you're a teen and exactly. Yep. And that's why we have programs like these, rather than taking them to the court system to where they can have a lifelong record. They come to us, take the accountability, do the consequences that are most times beneficial to them in terms of learning. Like if shoplifting, you can take like a shoplifting class, or you can do like a workbook kind of thing to further your understanding of why this is wrong. If they complete all the consequences assigned by our teen court volunteers, then the teen defendant gets all of their record completely expunged from that specific crime that they did.
So what kind of consequences besides taking the class and like a workbook? Do they do volunteer work to somehow work off community service hours? Are the consequences, are there options? Do they discuss it with them and say, hey, you know what if you took a class and you did volunteer work? Or what if you helped that store owner? Is that sort of what they do?
Yeah, it's definitely kind of up to our teen volunteers in the program. So they together, using neutrality, impartiality, and professionalism and teamwork, they work together to find consequences that they think are beneficial for our teen defendant. So in that case, it could be a workbook, or it could be a class, or it could be community service. And we very much push our volunteers to kind of get a little bit creative in those consequences. Like, there's been times where we've gotten like a 10-year-old who's really, really artsy, really into drawing and painting, and they'll have them create an anti-shoplifting campaign poster, so kind of stuff like that. And there's options to write essays, to take like drug and substance abuse classes, and we can also say, if this person is not having a very good time getting along with their family, then we can recommend, family bonding times, or building stronger relationships. That's definitely one of the classes that's on there, is building stronger relationships, or anti-peer pressure classes. So there's definitely a lot of options to give these defendants in terms of healing, and we definitely emphasize the importance of rehabilitation over punitive punishment. And and I think that's a lot of why we've had so much success, is that the teen defendants that come through our program understand, like, okay, I did wrong. I must fix that. I have to fix that and make it better, not only for myself, but for who I hurt, and that kind of gives them that mindset that my actions do have consequences, and that there are things that I'm going to have to change and I'm going to have to fix.
The students that are learning the judicial process, do you find, I know that you said you were interested in it, you started at 13 and you went to school and now you're doing this. Do you find some of them go to law school or are interested in the legal field or moving forward in that process?
Yeah, very much so. So I continued my education within the criminal justice field and political science. So there's one, and I have recently kept in touch with a lot of the teen court members that I was in the program with at the time. So these are kids between 2015 and 2019 who are also in high school. So they're all like early 20s, mid 20s and stuff like that. And they're all going on, and they all finished high school. So that's like one of the greatest things about this program, is that they either finished high school, got their diploma, and continued further education, or are now in the workforce. And I've contacted a lot of alumni from Guadalupe Teen Court as of recently, just to see how they're doing and see what they've gotten into. And a lot of them are getting their master's programs, or investing in businesses and broadening their education in terms of becoming a lawyer, or just like me, I'm here doing continuing this program. So it's definitely had a lasting impact on all of the alumni and current members that have come and joined in, and it's definitely had a lot of the impact of what we've all been interested in and wanting to learn about just the law and furthering our understanding of just the court system. So even if, like, you decide, I don't want to be a lawyer, I don't want to be a judge, or I don't want to be a cop, this program still is beneficial because it helps you understand the court process that not many people can say that they understand.
What a great program. Do you think you want to go to law school?
I've definitely thought about it. I'm not too sure if being a lawyer is definitely up my alley. I've definitely feel like I resonated a little bit more with youth development rather than going into the law and studying the law and stuff like that. Like, it's a great thing to know, definitely. There's nothing wrong with becoming a lawyer. If anything, that's one of the better things in society to become. But just for me personally, I care more, I guess, about building and uplifting our community and helping our youth get to that point, to where they can say, like, yes, I've had great people in my life who helped me succeed, because I'm privileged enough to say that I was. So I guess that's more along the lines, like, if maybe one day, eventually, when I go back to school, maybe I will become a lawyer. Things can change in a matter of a year, so who knows.
There's teen courts, they're all over the country. Is that correct? Or is it all over the world, or just U.S.? Do you know anything about the history with that?
It's a program that is nationwide for sure.
Okay.
I know they began in about the 70s or 80s when juvenile delinquency was kind of at its peak. So they started doing more of these programs. I know now in Arizona there's about, or in the Maricopa County that is, there's about 20 or so teen courts, and most of them are within the schools or within local municipal courts.
And districts? So when they're in the schools, it's through like a school district?
Yeah.
Okay. So if somebody commits something like, I don't know, this is Phoenix, so let's say Phoenix Union, then they might have a teen court or somebody in this area.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's usually kind of how it goes. I know, like, I'm more familiar with, like, the Guadalupe Tempe area in terms of our teen court programming, but A lot of them are within high schools.
That's
or
cool.
within local courts. So, like for our specific Guadalupe Teen Court, we weren't located and residing and doing our cases in the town of Guadalupe for a little bit, just because they were doing a lot of town renovations and stuff, and it was kind of a lot to kind of stay there. So they transitioned to the Chandler Justice Courts. So I don't know. It kind of changes, and it's been definitely evolving. I don't think there's as many teen court programs as there was back in like the 70s and the 80s, but it's definitely.
But you're doing it, and that's pretty
Yeah.
awesome. How many kids come through? You said it's the fourth Tuesday of the month. Is it like a full docket, or do you see one or two cases per time, or does it vary?
It's kind of, it definitely varies. It's dependent on the caseload that our probation officer does get. And, so, some months there are 3-4 cases, and some months there are 0. So
Okay.
it kind of is dependent on how involved, I guess, the parents are in bringing their kids to complete the teen court process, or maybe like the kids are like, no, like I'm not going kind of thing, so they kind of cancel out. But we don't get very often where they just don't show up, because if they don't, then they end up going through the traditional court system.
And then they're going to have a record.
Yeah, exactly. So we don't get that very often, and our probation officers are very good at, kind of pushing like, hey, you gotta come, or else, bad things are gonna happen, compared to if you just come to us and go through the process and complete your quick little essays or your quick little workbooks or your classes, and you can get this all erased.
Do you find that after the classes or after the diversion program or teen court that people have said, you know what, it was definitely worth it, it made a difference, I am going to change my behavior, I understand that I did something wrong?
Definitely. I feel like a lot of the teen defendants that do come through the program, they understand, off the bat when they start, they take accountability for the things that they've done and wish to move forward from that. And that's why they come to our program, to make it known to the community and their peers that, I do apologize and I wish to make it better. And we've had a couple times in the past where teens who do come through our program as defendants end up volunteering through jury duty, which is when they complete the process as a volunteer rather than a defendant. So they have that as an option to get assigned. And I remember when I was in teen court, there was a couple kids who were like, yeah, this is actually like kind of cool, I think I'm gonna stay, and kind of switching it around and like going from defendant to volunteer. It definitely has that ability to do so.
I think that's pretty amazing. I know we've got some art downstairs from somebody that was doing a diversion program.
Nice.
It was a teen diversion program, and you mentioned like you had a 9 or 10-year-old that was really interested in art. So we had somebody that did that for their hours here.
Mm-hmm.
That was sort of the deal that we worked out, and we have a beautiful piece of art.
Yeah.
And it was something I think that resonated with him. He made a difference, better than participating in a traditional court experience and getting a record. And I mean, people remark about the art all the time. So I think it's a super successful program. If somebody's interested in teen court, so let's say they're a defendant and they've gone through, but in terms of the ones that participate on the other side, one, they have to be a teen, right? So if they're going to be the judge and the other positions in teen court, they have to be, what are the ages for that?
Usually we try to keep it between the ages of 13 and 19.
Okay.
Usually between like 8th and 9th grade and 12th grade. You just want to try to narrow that a little bit down. 18 is still kind of like, oh, we don't know. But in the past, we've had people who just kind of sit in and participate in the process, and they can transition from being a participant to being kind of an ambassador, which is like a superior label we give our kids who age out of the program. And they still kind of stay involved in terms of the weekly meetings and involving them in terms of educating the next generation of youth and adding them in as a network. And moving forward and continuing their education is mostly what happens after they age out.
So do they mentor them? So if somebody's like your ambassador, then they'll mentor the new ones coming in that want to be what other position in teen court, so they'll it's like a training program? Is that how you all do it, sort of?
In a sense. So the way that it has been done before, so Guadalupe Teen Court was actually founded in 2015. So there's been
10 years.
Definitely a bunch of transitional periods that's gone on in terms of people who have been running it, who's been the director, and who's been leading and passing on, the torch to other people, just because over the years, we all got our own thing going on and transitional periods and people moving away and stuff like that. But for us, like, we used to meet weekly at the Guadalupe Library, where our former presiding judge, Elia Alvarez, used to lead our teen court between, I want to say, 2015 and 2019 as well. Then after that, it was led by Miss Michelle Hurd. She's an amazing person. And she was continued as, like, the advisor and continued the cases. And I'm pretty sure they continued the weekly meetings of inviting guest speakers and bringing people in to just kind of continue educating these next generation of leaders that come through our program. So it is definitely a little bit different, and I want to bring that back in terms of this Guadalupe Teen Court in 2025. Continue the guest speakers, continue the educational meetings that we have and the cases, and just continue the empowerment of our youth.
Okay, so I know we're almost out of time. How can our listeners find out more about the new, or it's not new, it's been in existence for 10 years.
Re-implemented,
or reborn, or updating. We'll go with updating.
Reborn, I love Reborn.
Okay. The new the Reborn Guadalupe Teen Court, and how can somebody contact you? And is it only open to Guadalupe town members, or is this open to anybody?
No, it's definitely open to everybody. We'd love for it to get and pinpoint all of our future Guadalupe leaders first. We have also members from the surrounding Tempe and Chandler areas as well, so as long as anyone or whoever is willing to dedicate their time and make the drive to us and be an active participant and want to lead and make a positive impact in the community, as long as you're check on all those things, you're more than welcome to come join us.
You do such an amazing job. I'm so impressed. Okay, and how can somebody contact you?
There's a few ways. So we have an Instagram and a Facebook, both under Guadalupe Teen Court.
Okay.
We also have a website at guadalupeteencourt.com. And I have direct access to all of those accounts. So, you contact those, you're contacting me.
Okay. Yeah. And then you get back with them and then let them know how they can do it. Mm-hmm. And then if somebody has been in trouble in Guadalupe, then it would be the parole officer that would be in touch with you, right?
Yeah. It's definitely more of like the juvenile probation department that does a lot of the assigning of who comes where. So usually what happens is if a teen from Guadalupe does happen to go through the program, the likelihood of them going through the Guadalupe Teen Court is slim, just because the teen court process has a portion where you have to swear in. And if you think that this person or you are not able to be impartial in the process, then you must excuse yourself. Okay. So most times we probably won't get an individual from Guadalupe Teen Court who our kids grew up with, and
them.
Yeah, exactly.
Conflict of interest.
Exactly. So we wouldn't want to kind of put our youth in that. So most times we get kids from the surrounding areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
That sounds fair.
Yeah.
And that's the right thing to do.
And, impartiality, neutrality is something that we make sure to practice in this process. We don't want someone to give someone a very harsh punishment because, they took my candy in the second grade.
Yeah.
So
I get it.
We definitely try to make sure. And I think that's a universal thing around the court systems is the practice of neutrality and being unbiased, and that's something super important that we try to make known for our kids in this process.
Excellent program. So again, it's GuadalupeTeenCourt.com, right?
Yes,
or .org?
Correct.
.com. And Instagram and Facebook, Guadalupe Teen Court as well, right?
Yes.
All right. And so again, it was Raina. What a pleasure. I've learned so much.
Yes.
And thank you.
Yes, thank you guys for having us.
Coming up on Native Talk Arizona, we'll learn about Local First Arizona with Sierra Minjeras and Tristan Kitch. Support for KRDP 90.7 FM comes in part from Native Health, with 2 locations in Phoenix, 4041 North Central Avenue, Building C, near the corner of Central Avenue and Indian School Road, and at 2423 West Dunlap Avenue. Native Health is also located in Mesa at 777 West Southern Avenue, near the corner of Southern Avenue and Extension Road. Native Health provides primary medical, dental, behavioral health, WIC, and wellness services for the urban Native American community. For more information, call 602-279-5262 or visit our webpage at nativehealthphoenix.org.
Welcome back to Native Talk Arizona, Native Health's Native American Cultural Affairs radio program, presented by Native Health and KRDP 90.7 FM. And I'm Susan Levy, and with us today is Ciara Minhares, Local First Arizona's Indigenous Food Waste Program Manager, and Tristan Kitch, Local First Arizona's Resilient Food Waste Program Manager. And Local First Arizona is dedicated to driving inclusive community and economic development throughout Arizona. Local First delivers resources to ensure that Arizona has a future focused on economic opportunity for all. And I think Local First is awesome. So welcome, Ciara and Tristan.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here today.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us, Susan.
Yep, we're super excited. So please tell us a little bit about yourselves.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ciara Minhares, and I'm the Indigenous Food Waste Program Manager at Local First Arizona. I'm also a former farmer. I used to do some gathering and foraging work and a lot of agriculture work on the White Mountain Apache tribe. There, I was able to really connect with my community, and it kickstarted my way into food sovereignty. And the reason why I feel like I connected was because I wanted to get in touch with my ancestral Inde roots. And when I say roots, I'm talking about the kind we eat. When we look back into how we used to forage and be self-sustaining and able to take care of ourselves, and we were all healthy. I feel like our diets are different now. And so I wanted to really help my people grow. And when I say my people, I'm not talking about race, because I genuinely care about making lives better amongst the tribal communities. And that's kind of how I got introduced to Local First Arizona. I met Patty and Kimber in October, and they recruited me to the Resilient Food team. And through my work through Local First Arizona, I'm able to connect tribes in northeastern Arizona with support for a sustainable and resilient food system. And what I liked about joining Local First was that I expanded my work from not only my tribe in the White Mountains, but to all the tribes in northeastern Arizona to help them really create a food systems that they built themselves.
Yeah, my name is Tristan Kitch, and as we said before, I'm the Resilient Food Waste Program Manager with Local First Arizona. I've been involved in food systems work here in Arizona for almost 4 years exactly now. Before working at Local First, I worked at the Arizona Food Bank Network, where I helped conduct community-based participatory research with tribes around the state relating to uncovering root causes of hunger and working with community members to identify solutions to some of the barriers that were brought up in those studies and in those conversations. Here at Local First Arizona, I work with both tribal and non-tribal farmers, as well as other businesses along the food supply chain. We work with food producers, but also with aggregators, distributors, and processors as well to make sure, to keep more food grown here within the communities that produce them, which of course is the whole thing with food sovereignty, right? And so I've continued to work with a number of tribes on some community-based food sovereignty initiatives with different departments and nonprofits that exist within the given tribal community. I don't work as much with the northeastern tribes. That's Sierra's wheelhouse, but I work with tribes all along the western side of the state, along the Colorado River, in the Phoenix metro area, and as well as with some folks in the Tohono Nation and the Pasquayaki tribe. So it's really been a pleasure supporting these food sovereignty efforts, and I'm really excited to see where they go and to add more.
Well, you do such a great job. So, Tristan, tell us a little bit about what is Local First, when was it started, what programs are there, and everything about Local First to know in about a minute or so.
Yeah, Local First Arizona was founded in 2003 by Kimber Lanning to drive economic development and community building in Arizona. We support small businesses in rural, tribal, suburban, and urban communities, and we assist them with identifying and achieving their goals. We basically just imagine an Arizona where everyone can thrive, and that's led to a lot of our more specific programs. We have these farming-specific programs so we can work with specific industries and specific demographics of business owners.
And Sierra, tell us about the programs that support tribal nations in strengthening food sovereignty.
I want to really touch on all of the different teams that are part of Local First Arizona. And we also have a food entrepreneurship team, which stems onto the teams that me and Tristan are on, the Resilient Food team. So on our team, we go through the different tribal nations and see how we can strengthen the food sovereignty. And I just want to touch up on what is indigenous food sovereignty. So it's like when tribal communities can have control over their own food systems, they grow what they want to grow and they eat what they want to eat. And it often includes ancestral foods, stuff that their grandmas and grandpas had taught to them and passed down through growing, foraging, hunting, and just that basic lifetime wisdom and knowledge. It really depends on how the community wants to engage with their food. So what Local First does is we help them engage in on that and build resilient food systems. When I say that, I mean creating opportunities for these different food hubs, having organic vegetables readily grown here, and then going back and researching what crops are good for our area that we used to eat, that we can learn to adapt to in the new age, just because they're less water thirsty and they're more acclimated to our land and our area. So that's how we kind of support them. We help the small and mid-sized farmers really kind of build up their capacity when it comes to the marketing and the sales and growing their businesses as well as their food systems.
So are you allowed to tell me or mention any of the farmers or producers that you're working with and kind of what you've done with them?
So we do have a program that was run here on the White Mountain Apache tribe where we worked with a group called Chikashabadansine, and we had gone foraging. We had elders come through, and we connected them with the local Boys and Girls Club members so that we can have that passing of knowledge and gaining those opportunities to bridge that food insecurity by looking at their surroundings and finding the food that was edible that they can get themselves if need be. They don't have any food where they're at. They can look and forage and find this stuff for free. That was the biggest thing we wanted to teach them, is that we might be hungry, but we have an abundance of food all around us on our reservation. So that was one of the main things that we did with the group. And then when it came to farmers, we have different grants and funding opportunities that we use to help support them. We have, I don't know if I want to jump onto Tristan's wagon, but there's quite a few amazing things happening as well on like the Wallapai Community Garden and Crit and Cocopa. Tristan, I'm not sure if you want to jump in on this.
Yeah,
Otherwise,
and again, we work with people and communities to identify what they want to do, what is best for them, and really playing that support role. We can help facilitate, identify resources, assist with developing projects, and identify grants and other funding resources. But so really, we partner with a lot of different groups. Really, what's going on in Wallapai through the tribe has been amazing, especially through their emergency operations department, led by the fearless Cheyenne Magenti. And they added a food pantry there through that program and have a community garden on site as well. We've also been working with some another community group in the Colorado River Indian tribes called the Food Sovereignty, Security, and Sustainability Committee. That group had collected a survey, one of the surveys that I mentioned earlier, and is developing a report that's going to live in the Crit National Archives that really provides that feedback and has really driven home an interest in the community, or interest from the community in community gardening and more food pantry services as well. Also, I've been working with a nonprofit in Cocopa called the Copa Village Network, which has also been doing some community gardening. They do a lot of youth events and other community events as well. They're really a holistic organization focusing on food and culture and resources and economic and workforce development too. I guess the last group I would want to shout out to is the Native American Advancement Foundation in the Guvalt district of the Tana O'odham Nation. They're another one that does everything. Having multiple community gardens in different communities within that district and supporting individuals to grow on their own, to do backyard gardening and ranching as well, but also having language programs, after-school programs, and really sort of pivoting to meet what the community needs. And so it's really, really fortunate to be able to work with those groups and, provide what assistance I can from my perspective.
You all do so much. Local First, I think, is always, it's such an impressive organization, and it does so many things for so many people. So, Sierra, can you tell me more about how you all support community efforts to strengthen food sovereignty and food access? Like, do you have specific programs, or what happens through Local First with that?
We have a couple of groups that help the tribal communities, and that would be me and Tristan through food, which is our resilient food team. When they come to us, we help with a lot of the times technical assistance, helping them find solutions to any of their farming problems or marketing problems. Local First has a few teams that work with tribal communities, tribal businesses, and tribal entrepreneurs, which includes our rural business center as well as our tribal community connections. And then we have me and Tristan's team, which is the resilient food team. And when you come to our specific team's resilient food team, we help by creating pathways with technical assistance to emphasize on different awards, grants, and support that we can help, whether it's through bridge loans, helping with research, even we do facilitation. We also have different awards that we can really bring people to, as well as working alongside partners like the Southwestern Regional Food Business Center. That's like a virtual site where farmers can gather resources from a big area that they can choose from. It also provides grant opportunities, and we're in there. We're one of the leading people for Arizona that control the Southwestern Regional Food Business Center. We want to mention the Business Builder Awards, and I'm not sure if Tristan, do you want to talk more about that, or?
Yeah. Right now, we until February 15th, we have the Business Builder Award application cycle open, and what that is we have some grants available of $60,000 to $100,000 for what we're calling post-harvest activities. It can't be used for farming inputs, but it can be used for aggregating food, processing and cleaning it, for cold storage or anything like that. Basically, bringing products to market, anything, once the harvest is done, anything that helps a business sell more of their products, essentially. And then we also have some bridge loans available as well that are low interest and character-based that can help people who get those grants upfront some of that money, because the grant is set up as a reimbursement model. You have to make the payments for the grant activities first, and then the government will reimburse you for that, because this is ultimately a USDA project that we're facilitating. And so these bridge loans help people have that money before they get reimbursed, so they can complete that project, and you're able to write the interest rates into the Business Builder application as well. We're also going to be having those awards available 3 more times over the next 2 years. There's going to be a cycle in the winter next year as well, and then in the summer this year and next year.
And we also have other opportunities to help farmers, like the Climate Smart Grant, which really supports farmers who grow less water-thirsty crops and more environmentally adapted, like agave, temporary beans, prickly pear, and helping them even looking at the research and why it's growing that way, and if we can really potentially help these farmers grow more of those crops for Arizona, and just kind of put into the community that we want to really start growing stuff like this for more environmentally friendly crops.
Do you both get to taste some of the crops? I know this is kind of off topic, just curious. I know we eat a lot of temporary beans at Native Health and love them. We do all kinds of really great recipes. Have you had a chance to try some of these?
Yes, definitely. I know it's really common for people to use hummus with it, and I feel like that's a different way of how I had it, which is usually just boiling the beans and eating them. But I really like the uniqueness and the creativity that these chefs are bringing to life with these foods. For example, we work with Danella and Danella's Creations, and she'll have blue corn mush and prickly pear compo, which is just amazingly delicious, and these foods are super nutritious for our bodies. So it really helps when we're looking at the ancestral foods and bringing them back, because they are less thirsty. They're used to this type of terrain and growing in this way. And then with the indigenous people who are growing them, they have these certain techniques that the farmers are really starting to look at and see that, wow, okay, this is very beneficial from, because they've been planting in these lands for since time immemorial. It makes amazing, and it's an amazing opportunity to see how they do this. For example, we also have a lady with the Three Sisters Farm who grows different types of beautiful beans, and when she puts her beans in the ground, they make sure to breathe on them and then put them in the ground and have good thoughts and good prayers with it. And I was fortunate enough to grow some of these beans alongside them in their gardens, and it is just a holistic feeling, and they pass down different versions of knowledge of why they do that, and why it's important to not just plant this stuff, but to really make sure that these life lessons are being passed down as well.
Yeah, I've gotten to try a lot of these foods too, and it's just been an amazing process to learn about. We really narrowed the food system down to a few foods when you can really eat the world around you, and that's not just true in Arizona. That's true across the entire world. And there's a lot of, and it tastes really good. I've had some great pine needle tea, temporary beans, as Sierra mentioned. I was able to attend an agave roast too at an annual agave event in Tucson, and the agave roast was put on by the Wallapai Cultural Department, and that was it tasted really good. And we're walking around and seeing this stuff all the time, but a lot of times people don't think about the value of that, and how that can be used.
Yeah, we had a guest on a couple weeks ago, and she was talking about more foraging than farming of the mesquite and learning about that. And I'm like, oh, I've been looking at mesquite trees a little bit differently now. Maybe I should get one and growing that and trying to harvest that. Do either of you have a favorite success story? I guess Sierra first. A favorite success story with one of the farmers? You've mentioned a couple different things, but maybe you've got something you'd like to mention.
Gosh, I feel like there's quite a few things that we've done, and one of the ones I got to really get to know is Laughing Goat Gardens. We are having him go through our REAP grant, which helps with renewable energy. It's a renewable energy project. And what I learned with Laughing Goat Gardens and Jarvis and King was that he developed these wool pellets. Because he's a rancher of sheep, he wants to bring back the native Navajo Turo sheep. And so what he did was he used this wool that was just kind of collecting dust, and he found that when he put it inside of his soil, that it was able to be used as a filter to bring water to the crops, but it was also compostable, so he didn't have to worry about going back in there and digging it out. So he has a plan to start producing these pellets and passing them out, and we're going to help him grow his business and his industry by helping him cut costs for energy and just looking at different ways we can help going green and helping his business expand at the same time.
Sierra, that's a great memory. We recently had Jarvison on and talking about his goat pellets. And I actually had bought some when he very first started and put them in my garden at home. And then we had him back on a second time, maybe a month or so ago, telling us about how he's grown and sort of pivoted a little bit to more of the wool pellets, and then also learning a lot about the different types of goats that he's got, which I didn't know. So it was really interesting, and he does an amazing job. And Tristan, do you have a favorite success story?
I believe you introduced us to him, Susan.
Yeah, he's a pretty amazing guy, and like I said, I didn't know about different kinds of goats and hair or wool or whatever, wool in the undercoat and the things you can do with it, and then the wool pellets, but they're pretty cool. I mean, when I first bought them, I'm like, I don't know, and I put them in my garden and in my tomato plants, and it was amazing. And I keep buying them from him, and I just ordered more, and I think they're also on Amazon too. But anyway.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah. And Tristan, do you have a favorite success story or memory with one of the producers?
Maybe I'm cheating. I want to talk about an event that brought a lot of our producers together. Annually, we have an event called the Good Food Forum, which is basically a sort of conference that brings people across the food system together to discuss, the issues of the day in Arizona's food system and learn about farming and producing in Arizona. And we have an Indigenous track of panels, at every time slot. There is an Indigenous food sovereignty-focused conversation, and Sierra and I were just able to bring together a lot of Native food producers and business owners within Arizona together, and it was just a great meeting of the minds, I guess, and it was really awesome to bring together people who we work with every day, and we're like, how do you not know each other yet? And introduce people and really promote those conversations about food sovereignty that really are happening in nations across the United States and tribal nations across the United States.
So since we're almost out of time, Tristan and Sierra, if you can tell us how our listeners can learn more about the awesome, amazing Local First Arizona and how they can contact you.
Yeah, you can find our website at localfirstaz.com, and we also operate the Good Food Finder directory of food producers around the state. So you can go to goodfoodfinderaz.com to find your local farmer or food producer to buy some food locally. And then my email is just my name, Tristan, at localfirstaz.com.
And Sierra, what is your email at Local First?
And my email is my name as well, Sierra, Ciara, at localfirstaz.com.
We also have Instagram for both Local First Arizona and the Good Food Finder AZ. So that's at Local First AZ on Instagram and at Good Food AZ for the Good Food Finder on Instagram. We're also on Facebook.
Okay, question for you. On the Good Food Finder, wasn't there, maybe I'm wrong, wasn't there like a tribal listing in there of indigenous producers, or was that something else?
Yes, you can filter the directory for native-owned food businesses.
Which was awesome. I use that a lot.
Just go on there. You can.
Okay. And that is Good Food Finder AZ?
Yes.
Okay. So I encourage our listeners to definitely check that resource. It has so many tremendous indigenous producers, ranchers, farmers, everybody else in Arizona. And we've been able to hook up with a lot of them and hopefully purchase and utilize and promote and elevate their programs. So I really want to thank you, Tristan and Sierra, for coming on. I think Local First is great. I think you're a good food finder. Working with you both and all of you at Local First has been a pleasure. And thank you for coming on today.
Yes, thank you. It was an amazing experience.
Yeah, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you for listening to Native Talk Arizona, presented by Native Health and 90.7 FM KRDP. Our executive producer is Susan Levy. Sound engineer is Javier Quiroga. We hope you will tune in again next week. If you have any questions, please reach us at nativetalkaz@listen2krdp.com.